Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to KCG, to another event. And today we will have kind of a special race, I think, because we are racing old GT3s at one of the most historic tracks in Europe, I'd reckon, at Brands Hatch GP. This is called GT Legacy, and maybe a future series, who knows. And I can already tell you we have a great variety of cars and a great variety of drivers, as we always have. And whatsoever, so a lot of stuff we can talk about. We are currently in qualifying, people getting their first laps in as per usual. And for those who don't know me for some reason, my name is Lino and I will guide you through the evening and through, not the night, the race isn't that long. But anyway. We will have a variety of old GT3 cars, ranging from the first ones we have in the game, from 2012 to 2013, up to the more modern ones that aren't used anymore, to 2016. So this still includes the Bentley Continental, the 650S, for example. All with a custom BOP to keep the competition as close as possible for those old cars, even though I can already tell the BOP isn't perfect, which is borderline impossible to have with those cars, because they've been affected by various updates and stuff, but weren't targeted to be balanced out since quite a few years, since they're not used anymore in official races and what's not. And still, I think, especially with the help of all the drivers, especially Sven, Christian, Marvin, Colin, they helped out a lot, gave a lot of feedback, did test runs, and with all of that done, I think the cars are pretty okay balanced for what they are. And let's take a look at the event information at the track, Brands Hatch GP. Quite a known track, I think. Everybody knows Brands Hatch nowadays. And yeah, we are racing for 2 hours. Or 2 hours plus 3 minutes, because we will have a safety car in lap. Safety car will be driven by Michael Fair. We will get him a bit later. But other than that, pretty straightforward race. 2 hours of racing with the manual in lap, rolling start, and no mandatory pit stop. But all these cars obviously have to take a pit stop. They won't make the 2 hours on, one tank of fuel. But still, can be very interesting, because we have cars like the Camaro, which has a 135 liter tank, and we have one Camaro on the grid. We're driven by Marco Chardon. But the Camaro, for the size of the tank and stuff, has a pretty hefty BOP. It only has 96% engine power. Same goes for the Bentley, with a similar advantage, which isn't driven actually today. So that's one possible OP car out of the equation. But I think you will see a good chunk of different strategies, also especially in terms of tires, switching fronts, rears, both. I think you can pull off anything depending on your car. But other than that, you have the first laps in, and the gaps at the start will be pretty significant. Track limits are not that easy. We have some very harsh track limits in a few spots on the track, because they've got updated. But other than that, it should be pretty much possible. We also have a few new people, as always, but a lot of people we already know. And I hope I didn't forget anything, because now in qualifying, there's the session information, which we still have 20 minutes of, so still plenty of time to find your spot on the grid. You will be able to drive your lap, and the car we are currently watching, or the time watching, is driven by Christian Greta in the Z4, Z4, whatever. Very, very cool car. I think it's very special in the terms how it looks, but also how it sounds. And we have 3 Z4s actually on the grid, as well as 4 SLS, which currently top the tables, with Colin Blankenburg on a 25.0, which is very fast. I've seen, I think Christian did a 25.1 in practice if I'm not mistaken. But we also have an Alpina, which is not very usual to see nowadays. And yeah, I mean, opinions can differ on the looks of the car, but it's a very special car nonetheless, and every time you see one, you have massive respect to the driver for choosing one. In this case, it's a bit different with the BOP and stuff. Marvin Mackenberg, currently third, 7/10 behind Colin. And there we go, Christian Greta only 1.5 behind Colin now. But Alpina is that very special car. We've seen it in Daytona 2.4-hour races a few times, but other than that, you basically don't see it. Same goes for the P45, driven by Marvin's brother Sven. And also by, I think it's Birger Meisman, yeah it is. The P45, I think it's, it might be the worst car alongside the R8 LMS, which is driven by Jasper, who's currently in 5th actually with it. But those two cars, I think many people really like them in terms of how they look, how they sound, but they are not, let's say, viable in a normal competition. Even when, I mean, nowadays you can't really drive them anyway because of, yeah, they are not allowed in ranked races and they are not used in other leagues usually. So you can't really use them, except for now, and then you can immediately see people want to use them, which is very nice to see, because they're very cool cars. Also with quite some history. I think the last time I've seen a P45 being successful in GT3, there's also the GTR2 P45 entry, which is kind of okay, I think. It's not great, but it's okay-ish. But I think it was Spa 2019, a 2.4-hour race. Before it was ranked, it was just an event. There was a P45, which was, I think, on the second row it qualified. But it didn't survive Eau Rouge on lap 2 or 3, one of those. And we have an incident somewhere. I think it was Marco shed one. But while we're on Marco, in the Camaro we can stay at Marco with the Camaro. Camaro, well-known car, Daytona Oval, Daytona 2.4-hour. I think that is of the old cars, alongside with the Bentley and maybe the 650S, the most viable car when it was still allowed to add that. Because it has a great fuel mileage, it has a big tank, and it still has quite some pace, and it's fast in the straight line. I think it's the fastest in the straight line with setup trickery. And with a normal setup, I think the GTR is a bit faster. In this case, it won't be the fastest because of its engine limitation, because otherwise it would be OP. And yeah, it should still fare very well, especially because you have to refuel way less in the competition. And speaking of competition, we also have our Corvette moving up the grid, driven by Ricardo Rebello. We have two Corvettes. One is driven by, as said, Ricardo Rebello. One is driven by Alfonso Alexandre. Great to see him back. He was away for quite some time. Same goes for Alfonso Alexandre. And they are both working the C06 C6 Corvette. Very cool car in my opinion. I really like it. It's not very special in that regard, let's say, but I just like it. I mean, it has a V8, it has rear drive, and it's just chunky. So, yeah. Meanwhile, something happened. I think it was Cisco. Yeah, Cisco just giving pass, and that was Lucas following with a big save there up the hill. But yeah, great to see some Corvettes, and we have one McLaren on the grid, 650S, one of the most modern cars that is available for this event. And hello. Thanks for popping in, and don't worry, I definitely got you what you meant. So yeah, thank you, and yeah, pretty old game in that regard, Race Room, but still holds up with it, I think. But coming back to the cars we have today, we have another few very cool cars. We have a GTR driven by Ivan Lukic, who already was here for Silverstone last time around. So yeah, very nice to see a GTR. We have a Ford Mustang driven by none other than Marcel Löcken. Marcel Löcken, I mean, it was kind of obvious he's gonna take a car like this. But it's great to see a Mustang. Even with the BOP, you can't make this car viable. It's by far the worst GT3 of all, but it's just such a fun car and so special in its own regards. It's just nice to see it on the track. And maybe, who knows, some things may happen during the race that will help Marcel moving up the grid, possibly. Who knows? But it's great to see a Mustang on a server. Also with the Pink Panther livery, I just love it. And but it's not the only Ford on the grid. We have another Ford driven by Sebastiano Rossi. And for GT, it's pretty much viable in normal competition. It's a great car. It was one of the few cars I've actually actively driven. And it's just nice to see it here with the Red Bull livery. Obviously, one of the guys who drove a lot of GT back in the days was Aaron Roberts, who unfortunately isn't with the community nowadays, but always reminds me of him and of the nice races we had. So, yeah, very nice to still see it around. And the last special car we have is a roof, which is very special. And Luca, you can still join, because we are very open here at KCG. Just type in your or send a link of your game profile into registration, and I will register you real quick. And then you can just join, and I will add you to the list. Because this shouldn't be a big problem. Roof very hard to drive, but roof very special, of course, because simply it's not obtainable in a normal way anymore. So still very nice to see it. And meanwhile, Sven Mattenberg went in front of Christian Grette, and Colin actually went past the 125 barrier. I didn't anticipate that, to be honest, but I mean, he did it. So but still, the P45 on the front row as it stands at the moment, which is very nice to see. And row, so you should now be able to see the password in news. But please make sure to also be aware of the rolling start. Just saying that. And you can just join. I will add the car to the list in a bit. But let's just join on somebody who's about to start a lap. To see what a lap on runs. Let's follow Jasper in the Audi R8. I hope he's not going to bin it, because that would be sad. But now, as we come through the last turn, which is very crucial, but also very tricky because of the offside camber, which leads you to just understeer out of the turn. We approach turn 1, which has a lot of variable racing lines you can take because of the elevation and the way it's cambered. So we're going for a very, let's say, middle approach. But now up the hill to the U-turn, or the first U-turn of the track, which is pretty much straightforward, but also very tricky to get out of it because the track falls off of you. And then it's double left-hander. Hit 2 apexes, not the easiest thing, but also not impossible. And then the left-hander that leads onto the Grand Prix circuit. You have to maximize the exit, of course, because you have a long straight, but you can use the track elevation on the inside, the track camber on the inside. Meanwhile, we are passing Marcel Löcken there. It's letting us through, and then up to this right-hander, you can brake very late because the track elevates a lot, which is a very nice feeling. Same goes for here because you can take a lot of curb. And it's just such a feel-good corner because the track kind of helps you to keep it in line. but it's still very tricky. And then we have this corner where a lot of people will get track limit violations because of the inside curb, which is very strict. And then this one, the last one on the Grand Prix circuit, it has such a nice camber to the inside. You can just let the car fall into the apex of the turn, and it just feels right. And that is one lap around the very quick Brands Hatch, which is surprisingly fun from... Yeah, it's not surprisingly fun, that's maybe the wrong way to say it, but it's a lot of fun and is surprisingly good for racing. So even though it's very tight and not the easiest in every way, but still you can very much race, which is very nice. We'll also take a look at the track map in just a bit. Of course I have one, as per usual. And we have 19 cars on track. I think we have 21 sign-ups, so the only one who has signed up who still isn't here as of now is Dave Siska is here on the Z4. I'm actually even missing one. Oh yeah, of course, one of the later sign-ups, Sotiris Moraitis. You can't see. You need to check for private servers and then just type in KCG. So disable only ranked, and I think it's password something. So you need to be able to see servers with password and non-ranked servers in the top of the search bar. Yeah, Sebastiano Rossi actually in P6 with the GT, which is very nice. And we have a very good mix of cars at the front. We have a Mercedes 9000s in front of Christian Goethe in the Z4. So I think it's fairly balanced if you have 9000 dividing the first two. Then we have a P45 in third, Sven behind the wheel, and an Alpina in fourth. Then we have two mid-engine cars with Audi and Ford, and then we only have the first double car with Gaspar Miss in the Mercedes. But then again, we have a McLaren and a Corvette, so it's very mixed up, I think. Colin getting used to the limits of the car. And Delco also joining. And he's also in the Mercedes. I just need to quickly add that to the list. Obviously with KCG we don't want to be like a very strict group that is for whatsoever competition and whatnot. You just want to have fun on track, and then you can also be much more spontaneous with how you handle stuff. Of course it's always better to sign up before, but if you couldn't or just just get to know about it, it's obviously still fine for us. Because we welcome people who want to join. I think that is the problem some other leagues really need to work out or change, that some of them are just too hard to join. We have some lag in the camera, so they stutter a bit here and there. Unfortunately, I can't. I would like to show you Michael Fair. Don't actually know what he prefers, saying Michael or Michael. Maybe if you listen to it, you can DM me on Discord. Maybe I can, there in the background, maybe I can go to the Mustang of Marcelo. There you can see it in front of the Mustang, and holy shit, that lags, it stutters a lot. There we have the safety car for this event, driven by Michael Fair, one of the best DPI drivers in racing. Well, can't really compare to other sims, I guess. So, yeah, but still, great driver. Wanting to take a bit of a break, which is totally understandable. But, due to this, we have a nice safety car. Whatever. I mean, I will switch between everything then, because sometimes it's just whatever works in. Oh, and I completely missed it. Sven Mackenberg moving up into first position, onto pole. 17,000 is clear of Colin Blankenburg. And thanks, Burger. Have a nice evening as well on track, and good luck in this car. But Sven Mackenberg on pole in the P45, that I'd ever see this car on pole again. That's crazy. But very great to see. Oh, and Christian taking a very interesting line there. 1 minute of qualifying remaining, so few people still being able to finish the laps. Gaspar Mist now coming onto the line, but it doesn't seem like a fast lap indeed. Where do we have the rest? Even Lukic on the Grand Prix circuit. Luca now finishing his only lap he had in the session. And it is a 27, not bad right out of the box. I think the next one to come over the line is Ivan Lukic. Bit hard to keep it pinned on the apex. Has a bit of ballast, this car. And he drives a 27.4, that's not enough to improve. And now Marvin Mackenbach on his last lap, but he's trying the pit entry. And that's it. Sven Mackenberg on pole in the P45, followed by Colin Blankenburg in the Mercedes and Christian Goethe in the Z4. Then we have Marvin Mackenberg, Jasper van der Vaart, Lukas Wallowing, Erik Kratochvel, Sebastian Rossi and Roque Sebi. Ricardo Rebello running out the top 10. Followed by Gaspar Mist, Marco Chadron, Afonso Alexander, Birger Meisman, Marcel Löcken, Ivan Lukic, Dave Siska, Luka Nedelko, Timo Reiter and Mateusz Friedrich in the roof. And now we have 5 minutes of warm-up, so bit of time to chill out. But what a sessions it already been. And yes, Sven also saying he did not expect that. Yeah, neither did I, to be honest. But now while we wait, while everybody is being able to get warm up and we have a flag and yeah, whatever, we can take a look at the track map, because we had Brands Hatch, Great Britain and Turn 1, Paddock Hill Bend Road Tree Scene and Pilgrim's Drop. A lot of elevation and a lot of camber. Up to Druids, very pristine overtaking opportunity. And then we go downhill from there to the double left-hander of Graham Mill Bend onto a longer straight for Brands Hatch relations. Onto the uphill left-hander of 30s with a very crucial exit to hit. and then Pilgrim's Rise, obviously, because we have Pilgrim's Drop, and then up into turn 5 at Hawthorne's Bend and Portobello Straight, and then we go to the downhill section of the track, which is started by Westfield Bend, followed by Dinglebell, which is still flat, and then turn 17 curve with the tricky curb on the inside since the new track limits. But then another straight to Sterling's Bend with a lot of camber on the inside. Very crucial to use that to your advantage. And then onto the, only wheel straight, one of two wheel straights, clearways. And then turn 9, Clark curve. And that is one lap around Beltash. Back then they used to drive in DTM here in the we have a small issue. But yeah, very small up in the DTM. They used to even drive the even shorter layout, which is quite crazy when you think about it. And as it seems, we don't have a safety car, unfortunately, because Michael Fair's game crashed. And he can't rejoin in warm-up. I have a car, so I can't restart the server now. It's just unfortunately not really possible. I mean, we could try to shuffle the people around and stuff, but would just be too much of a hassle. We already had that 1 year ago in Road America with the red flag, and it worked. But it still was nothing you could do. It's just totally on the game. I mean, at least you were only a safety car, not the race contender, you know? Imagine you were qualifying, 5th, 6th? And then you, so Sven is going to take over that job then of virtual safety car in that regard. I mean, so far every time it worked out, so I'm not really concerned about that. And thanks. So thanks for the offer, and about your suggestion with safety car. I will think about it. It's just very hard to implement at the moment. Especially if stuff like this happens, you know, you can never know. You need to... It's a bit unfortunate that you can't rejoin an ongoing session except qualifying. Oh, only 20 seconds of warm-up left. There we go, warm-up is over. And my monitor wants to turn dark. No, you won't. And there we go. Let's activate the virtual safety car. Maybe I won't forget to turn it off this time. who knows? Meanwhile, if you are watching the stream and are not part of KCG yet, but you want to join KCG, there's your QR code. You can just scan it with your phone and it should directly direct you to our Discord. Everything we do is managed via Discord. And yeah, there we have everyone on the grid. And Marcel being active on the flasher. And there we go, everybody's just slowly rolling off. So there's everything alright. Sven now keeping it between, I think we've said something like 80 to 160. And hello Frank, unfortunately to not see you on the track, but great to see you in the chat. Hope you're having a great evening. And yeah, Jasper actually in P5 with an R8. But would you look at that pic? I always enjoy this, like watching this queue of cars just getting ready to race. I don't know. Doesn't matter if in real life or in game. I think it's always just such a nice sight to have. Sebastian getting very close there. But especially in those cars, I think the in-lap is even more important than in modern cars because they have more mechanical grip compared to modern GT3s, but any modern car, even to cup car or whatever. They very much rely on the temperature and the tires and the brakes. And also in this game, I felt like this made quite a big difference. But also in Brands Hatch, it's quite easy to overheat them. Now Sven will go to the left and Colin will join him on the first row on the right. You can see people queuing up. Now it's pit limiter speed. And basically from a certain point on, Sven is free to decide on the race start. Let's see when he will release the field. 20 GT3s, 20 old GT3s. And he's still on it. And now he's accelerating. And Sven Mackenberg into turn 1, leading the field. Christian Grötte right on the attack with Colin Blankenburg. It's always tricky in P2, but Colin Blankenburg holding on to that P2. And it seems like everybody went through turn 1 without major issues. And now up to Druids. 3 wide in the midfield. Marcel Löcken here on the outside of one of the Rover Mercedes. We have 3 Rover Mercedes actually on this grid. And it's very tight still. Side by side. And now down the straight and we still are side by side. Meanwhile at the lead, Colin Blankenburg is looking for the offense on Sven Mackenberg. Now on the straight they should be fairly equal, all of those leading cars. A little bit of a gap between Christian Grötte and Marvin Mackenberg. But so far there has not been a single incident except for maybe some off tracks, which isn't a big problem. And I again forgot to disable the VSC. But there we see Colin right behind Sven Mackenberg, so he's got the pace right on start. Jesper Van Auer dropped 2 positions, but is still right on the tail of Sebastiano Rossi. Looking for the offense, can't quite do it now, and we have Timo right on the wall. So not damage free lap 1. But Gaspar Miss, I think he also dropped quite a few places. He's now behind Marcel Löcken, and Marcel Löcken, understeery. Into turn 1, you have one going very wide through the gravel trap. And it's Jasper Van der Vaart versus Sebastiano Rossi. I think he managed to get the better line through Druids, but Sebastiano Rossi with aggressive braking maneuver, a bit of contact there, and Jasper probably not too happy about that. Will be looked at after the race, but that opens the chance for Rocks to be. Oh, and a little bit of an accordion effect, and that compromised the exit of Jiri Kartoffel, who's now being attacked by Max Chadron and the Corvette of Alfonso Alexander, I'm sorry. Edward Bello is behind them. He's just overtaken Marcel who's going a bit wide there. He also had another incident, Birger Meisman, with a lot of damage to the front of that car. Marcel Schwittwiches just, I think you also got compromised a bit in all of that. Oh, and I'm just seeing Colin Blankenburg down 1 second. And it seems like he became the leader and went off track. Probably launched down the inside of Sven and just overestimated the grip he had. Just leading him to go straight off. We have a lot of track limits. We don't have an incident limit, of course, but we have give back time penalties. But now Sven is still under pressure, but this time from another car. And Christian, he will probably know very well. Those two have raced a lot in multiple different cars and different simulators even. But now having a look down the inside. Sven leaving him a lot of space, but getting the better exit due to just being on the outside line, being able to accelerate early, and Birger Meisman into the pits with the damage sustained. You know, Mark Chadron now, Chevrolet going with Chevrolet. Two different cars, same manufacturer. It's 4P9. So Mark Chadron moving up the field. Oh, but running very wide there. That gives Alfonso de Alexandre the opportunity to go by, and now Mark Chadron has to look in his rearview mirror because Jiri Kartoffel is running right there. Is he starting to move now? No, not yet. But Colin Blankenburg is again right behind the top three. Now behind the Alpina of Marvin Mattenberg. So again he finds himself right behind the Mattenberg. Just a different one this time. Oh, and having a look down the inside, couldn't quite do it there. Not enough overlap. But we also have a 2-hour race, so there's a lot of time, and especially with all the pit stop, it will get all mixed up. And on such a short track, there might also be some lapping earlier or later in the race. So there's so much to come. It's just been 2 laps. So, but it's still so bunched up. We have maybe 3 cars that are not within 1 second to each other. Sebastiano Rossi trying to look for that P5. He's right behind Luca Vollering, who has a great start so far. Started, I think 8th it was. No, up into P5. Sebastiano Rossi looking good in this opening stage. I think Alfonso Alexander also made up a lot of positions. There you can see it, 4 positions gained by him. So he's had a very strong start to the race, and he's trying to get close to Rox B, who got passed by Jasper van der Vaart actually in the meantime. Jasper van der Vaart, I think, lost 2 positions from the start. So, let's see, Birger Meisman still in the repairs. There's a lot of damage also to the rear left. So maybe there has been contact 2 times. Meanwhile, Luca Denderko trying to go for P16 on Ivan Lukic in the GTR. But you can immediately see how different these cars drive, how much more aggressive you need to be with those cars compared to modern GT3s. And we have an incident further back. Marcel Lytton lost control, entering GP circuit. No harm done, no damage. He can continue on his way, and the race is still long, so shouldn't worry too much about it as of now. And we have Jasper van der Vaart now right behind Sebastiano Rossi. Was there a bit of contact? Doesn't seem like it. Also have Colin Blankenburg wide on the edge behind Marvin Mattenberg. And Alfonso Alexander looking strong to get past Rockus DB. Now sliding a bit. Past him on the exit. Colin Blankenburg is looking very, very fast. And we've seen it in qualifying, but all of those top four were super close to each other. Maybe you could argue Marvin was a bit outside, but the Alpina has the long run pace. But obviously the more Colin and Marvin fight now, the more they will lose out to Sven and Christian up front. Question is, does it matter in the long run? Currently we are... Oh, and Alfonso running very wide there. Lost him a bit, and maybe that's a chance for Marco Chardon to close in enough. And we have another thing. Friedrich lost control. That's turn 7. A very bad spot to be parked at. And that's also the GTR of Ivan Lukic, who seems to have been stationary. Because here you can... It's hard to see, and you really need to know when traffic is coming. You can't just turn around there. But very well done by Mateusz Friedrich. Very fair driver. As we've seen in in the last KCG events. We're going a bit wide there. Kanedelko getting closer to Dave Siska. Let's just take a look at the steering of Colin. You will always see the counter steer out of the turns, and he's just basically drifting it through the turn. There's no way past the Alpina. It's very wide, and I'm sure Marvin is going to make it even wider. Same goes for Luca with the Z4. It's a very small car, but if you want to pass it, you will suddenly find it to be very wide. Oh, and this position change? No, it was just a bug in the timing screens. Very up front, Christian Goethe keeping around about the same distance to Sven. So he's not really gaining, but he's also not losing. I think as of now, everyone has settled in their positions a bit. Just waiting for the opportunity. Maybe Luca can launch one up the inside now on Dave Siska, and he does so. Very well done. Down the inside, just locked him out of the apex, but not forcing him off the board or out of the turn, how many F1 drivers like to do it, let's say. Because this is quality racing. Kartoffel not having the best opening phase of the race. Currently in P11 behind Marco Chardon. See what he can do over the distance. And now Christian Goethe even having a look down the outside, but there's nothing you can do there. But also the sounds of those cars, they are very pure, very raw also. It's no secret why these cars are so beloved. And now Jasper van der Vaart having a look down the inside, but Sebastian also a bit later on the brakes. For GT also very strong. And there's a touch between RoxDB and Alfonso Alexander spinning out into the barrier. Let's hope there's not too much damage to that Corvette. To me, it looked like a racing incident. Oh, and Luka Nedelko with a big hit. Back then, I'm not sure what happened. And it seems like there's terminal damage to his car. The engine is not running, and that will be a DNF for Luka Nedelko after such a good opening phase, starting last. Or nearly last. What about it? But it seems like he just lost it over the curbing on the outside. But that's the tricky thing with these cars. They are very snappy over uneven surfaces, and that affects most of those cars. So they are not that easy to drive. And we've seen it time and time in this race. The incident before with Afonso Alexander, who also DNF'd, unfortunately. Und zuerst bei Vanderfahrt side by side with Sebastian, also forced off of it. But yeah, you can already see in this race, cars are super hard to drive, super easy to make mistakes, and Birger Meissner is back on track, which is very nice to see. But in terms of the collision between Afonso Alexandre and Rox the B, I think that was more of a racing incident, but we will obviously see later. We will take a look at all the incidents that occurred during the races and yeah, adjust the standings by that. And Jesper van der Vaart with a very nice move on Sebastian Rossi around the outside, set it up and do it already. So very nice move up into P6, recovering from his opening phase, and now on the hunt for Lucas Vollering. Colin Blanc, he's just looking for every opportunity, but now a bit wide. I think that was a bit too much. Can't really overtake into that corner unless you are really alongside and basically already ahead into the turn. It's very hard to make a move stick there. I think the best chance is just to wait behind and push with Marvin together to get close to Christian and Sven, and then wait for his opportunity. Because he is on pace at the moment, probably faster than at least Marvin, who is on pair, probably faster than all three of them at the moment. But as you can see, it's very hard to get past. And Rox the B now being chased down by Marc Chardon. It's checking a wider line through duels compared to the other cars. But yeah, coming back to the incidents, I hope we'll see you back, Luca. I think you will really enjoy it here. So yeah, next event you will be notified if you stay on the Discord, and we hope to see you back. And also thanks for the nice words. But this race is still far from over. We've only got 15 minutes. Yeah, the clock only ran down 15 minutes, and so much that happened. And Colin Blankenburg, he just can't find a way around that M6, or B6 it rather is. It's an Alpina B6 GT3. Oh, and we have another incident for the back. I'm sorry, not Valentino. Sebastiano Rossi lost control for GT, dropping down to 12. Let's see, is there damage to his car? It doesn't look like it. So at least he's safe to continue. And Rox the B having a nice fight with Marco Chardon there. Here, Kartoffel right behind. Oh, and Colin Blankenburg now down the inside. Bit of a touch there, but Robbing is racing in these cars. Just nice move. Probably took more time to set up this time. And is in front of Marvin Markenberg. Now, can Marvin Markenberg hold up with him and close in on Christian Goethe? And can Marco Chardon launch one up the inside of the Z4? Not quite yet. Oh, and once wide. Does that open the door for Malmagno? No, he was able to have a bit of a cushion to him. That just shows how fast Colin is in this car. But in qualifying we've seen that they are pretty equal in terms of possible lap time. Jasper van der Vaart, what happened to him? There was a smoke of gravel at the outside of the last turn. I'm not too sure what happened. Oh, and Marcel Löcken also had an interesting moment there. But Dave Siska was in a collision, probably with Marcel Löcken because he was also in a collision. And Gaspar Miss as well. What is happening here? Gaspar Miss seems to have been in a collision on his own, not with another car. But there's a lot of damage to those cars. And Marcel Löcken down the inside of Dave Siska. Very nice move there. But what happened to Jasper? I'm not seeing... Maybe it also was a slowdown. A very hefty one. It's very hard to tell. And we have Dave Siska lost control. Also a lot of damage to his car. So a lot of drivers now being caught out by mistakes. Not those four. Cardo Rebello now also joining the fight for what is effectively now P6. Currently led by Marco Chadron. And we have another Gaspar Miss again in a collision. Yeah, probably because he also took some damage to the rear axle, which is then very easy to lose the car on. He will now go into the pits. Very tricky pit entry actually. But that's how fast things can go in this race. Those cars are not easy to drive, not at all. And there looks to be a bit of oversteer out of turn 4. Gaspar Miss after such a strong race so far, as well as Jasper van der Vaart. Jasper should still be fine, pretty much. Because he still has a running car and he's there's Sebastiano Rossi now right in front of him again. But who profited a lot of this is Marcel Friedrich, who struggled a lot with the car, and he also said it was super hard to drive him, but currently in P15. In terms of prices, the top 10... I need to double check before I say something wrong, even though I look at the top 8 will win VIP prizes, and there are 3 random people outside the top 8 who will win prizes. Obviously, if they finish the race or make it to the finish line. So there's overall 11 people who can win a bit of stuff. But yeah, as this KCG, it's more about the racing than it is about winning prizes. He's a bit faster than Marco, and Marco Chandon obviously having the car with the long run pace, so he probably will make up a few seconds in the pit stop with the low fuel consumption this car has. So it's very crucial for Rokus to get past. And now the top 3 are getting closer together. Marvin lost a bit of ground, he's 3 seconds on the road. That doesn't mean all too much at this state. But would you look at this? 3 completely different cars, completely different brands, 2 very different concepts. Even though the SLS and the Z4 are also very different. SLS is pretty much the powerhouse and the Z4 is the small and nimble car. It's very cool to see such close competition between the 3 of them. Also 3 of Race Room's greatest drivers. Let's take Marvin, because he was also within the top 4 for a long time. He's also definitely one of the best drivers in Race Room. Maybe they're not like the best esport players on the whole sim, but in terms of general racing, they are just so cool to watch. They are so skilled and also so respectful on track. Don't think I can really recall a moment where they've been dirty deliberately or did anything in that regard. And for all of them, you can name so many great moments. But same goes for the people further down the road. RokusTB, Marco Chadron. Both people with a lot of history in the game. RokusTB also someone who is pretty much up front a lot of times. And Marco Chadron obviously always being right there when it counts. One of GT01's fastest drivers, I'd say. And we all have them here. But it's not like they are an elite group. We are all part of one community. And that's very nice. I think it's very important to appreciate stuff like this. Meanwhile, there's this guy, seems to have lost control in turn 7. He already had that sustained damage from before, so that will not have to do with that. Mateusz Friedrich closing in on Timo Reiter, one of the newer drivers. I think he wanted to join for the Silverstone or Racing Green 350 last time around. Just couldn't quite make it, but now he's here. So it's very cool to see. Also a very nice name. I'm not biased, of course. But yeah, there's so much you could talk about each driver. But it's also very nice to see Jasper back in. We haven't seen him race for a long time in KCG because it was always on days where he couldn't, unfortunately. And I think somebody went into pits, possibly. Still out on track. Just heard the noise, but I couldn't quite pin it down, but didn't seem like it. Currently it's a bit of stalemate between cars that fight. But we are 25 minutes in and it's still 2 major groups that actually fight with each other. And look at that statistic. Marco Chadron 6 positions up from his starting position. Oh, and Marvin Markenberg. Oh, spin out of turn 8. It's the first of the leading group. Will probably be passed by Lucas Vollering. Not quite. But Marvin will have dirt on the tires. Oh, and Erik Kartoffel going at RokusTB. Around the outside, that was very brave, but very fair play to RokusTB there. Just flashed the headlights, but I don't think there was something wrong. But that was a very nice move. Don't see that all too often. The McLaren with pretty hefty BOP, but I think it just made it balanced in the end. Obviously it's one of the newer cars, which I'm already having an idea about for the next time we do such things, because I want to use those old GT3s more often, because it's just so much fun to watch, but also for the drivers to drive. I've only had positive feedback so far. And Jasper now very close to Sebastiano Rossi. Mateusz Friedrich on Timo Reiter on the outside, Timo Reiter on the inside. But that's the beauty of turn 1 in this track. You can take so many different lines and they all work. Couldn't quite make it there. Oh, and Sebastiano Rossi going a bit wide, not a big problem, but you will have dirt on your inside tires. The camber of turn 8 does help you with dealing with it, but it's still not the greatest feel you want to have. But as of now, the top 3 are getting closer together. They are just a few tenths apart, but still I'm seeing on my dashboard that it's from being yellow all the time, it's going to red all the time. So... Oh, and... Now switch to overall time difference. And again, Mateusz Friedrich around the outside. It's the same as the lap before. Does Timo brake a bit too late this time? No, he doesn't. It's pretty much the repeat of last time. And Colin Blankenburg super close to Christian Goethe. Christian Goethe seems to have made a mistake somewhere. That was a very good defensive move. You just let Colin decide which side to pick and then just stick to the middle basically, but there's no way for Colin to get past. That's where the Z4 is stronger, especially with the BOP. The SLS is also a very strong car, so it has a lot of BOP, and Christian running way wide there. All of this gives Sven a bit of breathing room, which he will be quite happy about, as he didn't have that in any minute of the race so far. But the SLS with a pretty hefty penalty of 45 kilograms, as it is that strong, especially in turns, but obviously this hurts his braking capability. And Erik Kartoffel now onto Max Chedron, and Rob CB seems to have dropped behind Ricardo Bello. Not sure when that happened. I can also not see any incident. And Colin Blankenburg still behind Christian Goethe, but also Jasper van Avermaet behind Sebastiano Rossi. Oh, and Marcel Löcken, out of turn 3. But still, there's a bit of damage, I think, to the front of the car. Mateusz Friedrich still trying to find his way around Timo Reiter. Oh, Timo had a compromised exit there. And now Mateusz Friedrich down the inside is passed before the turn. But can Timo Reiter maybe hold it around the outside? And not quite. Very well done by Mateusz Friedrich there. Oh, and Jasper van der Vaart in the meantime went past Sebastiano Rossi. Now trying to have a look down the inside. Does Jasper understeer? No, he doesn't. Means he will remain in 10th position. But I'm sure all of them want to move up. There's Dave Siskel giving way to faster cars. Very fair. Oh, yes. Oh, and that's Sebastian also off. What happened there? Just has lost control. Probably on its own. Gives Jasper van der Vaart a lot of breathing room. They are now closing in on Mateusz Friedrich. Oh, and there's another incident. Rocks to be off in turn 7. It's 1-3 before Jasper van der Vaart. But again, it doesn't seem like there was contact involved. But now Colin around the outside. Josh Friedrich leaving, just letting them through. You can see how much they understeer and then oversteer. Still a lot of slowdowns to be served, let's say. Basically have that yellow information box constantly there. Mark Shadron also holding up to that 6th position. He's not that far away from Lucas Wollering, but still he's that could be his advantage in the long run. As said, he should make up quite some time in the pit stop, which is also why this car is such a BOP. But that will be very interesting later in the race, because the longer he can hold cars behind him, the better his long run result will be. And as of now, Jiri Kartoffel has a very hard time getting past, now being stuck on the curb, costing him some more time. He will make up that time in maybe a lap. And that's Lucas following. Oh, not the best rejoin we've ever seen, but yeah, the front axle doesn't seem like it's in a very good state. Yeah, it's a lot of grabbing involved. Ricardo Bello now probably going past very easily there. Oh, no, it was just a bit of server lag there. Very unfortunate. Following also having a very strong race so far. Doesn't mean it has to end now, because as we've seen, a lot of drivers having issues, making mistakes. Top 3 now closing in on Birger Maisman, who also had a very poor start to the race, unfortunately. And Timo Rath, who, despite his incident, is still in 14th. Oh, following losing control. Oh, hitting Sven. That was Maisman, and that's Sven and Christian in the wall. There's nothing those two could have done. I'm not too sure what happened with Berger. He tried to escape out of it as soon as possible. That was super unfortunate. It seems like Maisman just lost the end of the car, so nothing he could do, and he immediately tried to hold brakes, and the car just spun back on track, and there's nothing Sven, Christian could have done. Colin, I think, got through quite lucky. Doesn't seem like there's damage to his car. Oh, and there's another incident somewhere. Oh, it's Mateusz Friedrich, and that car is then up at the front. Oh, and that, yeah, Berger confirming. Broke the suspension on the curb, and Sven, probably result of the damage, spun out on turn 8. Oh. Yeah, but gets out of the way early enough. But that's how fast things can go, and yeah, there's nothing Berger can do in that scenario. He probably broke the curb on the outside curb when coming back, and there is sometimes a bug with the game. Maybe it's not a bug that this breaks your suspension, but I mean, it kind of looked like it already from watching live, and that's just super unfortunate for Sven and Colin, but nothing anyone could have done there. Can't anticipate that. Just hope they can continue the race. Let's check on Sven. So he is still driving. I think he had the most damage done to his car. Seems like there's a slight bit of offset. Yeah, but there's this shaked up the complete race. Colin Blankenburg now leading. He's not leaving, he's leading with a big margin. Which is probably going to increase even more, but Marvin Markenberg in the second, followed by Christian Grotte, who got through it. He got caught out, but it doesn't seem like his car was really damaged in that scenario. But that also means that Marco Chaldron is now in 4th. Oh, and there's another incident. Who is it? Oh, and it's Luca following off into... Oh, and now there's big time damage to that front. I'm not sure if it was the same before, but it doesn't seem like it. And we are only 38 minutes in this race, so it's still nearly 1.5 hours to continue on. Also, that brought back Jasper van der Vaart into the VIP giving range. He's also closing in on Sven Mockenberg, no? I can't really tell what the extent of the damage is on Sven's car. Doesn't seem to be too bad, but the hit was quite hard. And he also seems to struggle a bit with the car. So I presume there's a bit of damage to the left front or left rear, even though left rear would be significantly worse, so I think left front. But even with that 96% engine, the Camaro is just pulling away on the straight. That's crazy. Now you can see how much the position have changed, and it will continue to change a lot. Oh, and out on the side, Marco went very wide there. Kartoffel just locking him out of the exit, and that was a good move. Just waited for his opportunity, and was there when it counted. So that's 4th for Jiri Kartoffel. Cannot stay away from the screen for a second because there's so much happening. And we still have all the pit stops to do. I think with the pit stops, things will calm down a bit as people will be further apart. But it will still be tricky. Now Ricardo Bello fancying his chances on Marc Chardon. The roof there, that is 1 lap down. Josh Friedrich leaving space through all the other cars. But in this race there's still a lot to play for. But as you can see, or as you were able to see, sometimes there are just factors you can't influence and what just happens. No, it shouldn't, of course. But sometimes you just can't do anything about it. In this case, nobody could do anything about it. R3A Reality decided to not work for a moment, because when he's not trying to get past Matos Friedrich. He's also on a recovery mission there. I'm wondering where OCB is. He's on 9th. Still have a very close chain from 4th, the Kartoffel, who can't really get away from Markus 1 to 8th. Currently everyone is pretty much on the same part of the track, except for Colin maybe. Colin pretty much checked out of her, and there's Marcel. But all of this could have ended way worse for both Sven and Christian, and also for Colin. I'm not too sure how he made it through all of this without any damage also. But yeah. There he goes past Marcel. Marcel actually in 12th position. So as said to him previously, there's so much that can happen in this race. What you can't expect, what just happens, but you could not imagine that it happens, let's say. It does happen, you know. Sven Martenburg seems to be pretty much back in his groove. Now right behind Ricardo Rebello. Yeah, don't worry, Bill. We will obviously take a look at it after the race, but I don't think there's... So, yeah, it was actually Christian Kresse, not Lucas following. But, let's take this guy. And now having a look down the inside, but pretty got pulled off. currently it's calmed down a lot. Marvin Mackenberg was able to drive clear of Christian Goethe. Colin Blankenburg just casually minding his own business. And Yuri Kartoff was also able to build a bit of a gap to Marco Chardon. But also, pit stops should not be too far away from now. It's 1 hour 12. Not possible in all cars. It would be possible in the Camaro. But obviously, that would just... Or Marco would lose track position with that, so he probably won't do that. Oh, and it's Jasper. I completely missed that. I'm sorry. Sven and Jasper going past Ricardo Rebel and Jasper trying immediately to launch it up the inside of Sven there. I was completely... So that was a lot that happened there out of the sudden. Sebastiano Rossi also did on a cover mission. He's behind, where the Mercedes in front is Timo Reiter. Not anymore. But no, it's Gaspar Miss, I think. Yeah, it's Gaspar Miss. The red mirrors is Gaspar, the blue mirrors is Timo Reiter. And BMW in front is P9, which is currently inherited by Rocus DB. Jasper van der Vaart still added. There's Timo Reiter, as you can see with the blue mirrors. A bit of a gap that's forming there, and we have the yellow Rocksteady and Rocksteady and Sebastian Rossi, both of that might be. It doesn't show a collision in my dashboard. I just presume. Need to sort something out in the meantime. So now things have really calmed down a bit, I guess. Sven and Jasper will now close in on Mark should run lap after lap, but it will take some time for them to get past, I presume. And we have a pit stop. We have a pit stop. I hear we have a pit stop. Who is in the pits? I think Lucas Wallering is still in the... So it might just be Lucas Wallering, because he's right behind the pit line. Marcel Löcken being passed by Marvin Nockenberg. Christian Grötter, I think he just sustained a bit more damage, which is causing his tire to just go down. But we have another pit stop. Unfortunately, I can't see who it is. It is Christian Grötter. Christian Grötter is in the pits. Lucas Walling is driving now, so he's the first of the front runners to come into the pits. And we will have an eye on where he will come out, because that will be very interesting. So he's still refueling. Maybe changing tires already. So most of the grid is on the GP track. And he's driving now. Let's see. And he has a free track. He's not blocked by any traffic. That is pretty good for him. Because he can now just use that advantage and probably also fix the suspension. Shouldn't be too much suspension damage he sustained. Oh, and we have Dave Siska in a collision. That's turn 7. Some slowdowns. But not too much of a problem. I think the best thing for Sven and Jasper would now to wait until they can pit, which they should be able to in 1 or 2 laps without problems. And just pit to undercut Max Schaden, or how about Max Schaden having a big moment there that cost him a lot of exit speed, but with the power of the Camaro was able to drive out in front. And we have another pit stop. If I could tell you who it is, I would. Should be Dave Siska. Yeah, it is. So let's just take a look at the lap times of Christian Grötter this time. Oh, and we have another yellow somewhere. It's Marcel Löcken in the pits, and that is Timo Walter in the pits behind, and we have a massive banner in our head. Maybe the yellow flag was from the pit entry. Let's just take a look in a second what Christian Grötter is able to do. So currently Colin Blankenburg is still lapping at 25.4. Marvin is lapping at 26.09. Or an invalid in this case. Let's just see. It's a 25.9. So a bit faster than Marvin and probably will increase its speed in the coming laps. Might be enough to undercut him. Colin is pretty much well clear at the moment. Team is driving again. Marcelo is also out of the pits for some time, and we have another pit stop. And it's Sven Mackenbeck and Jesper van der Vaart both in the pits, as called. Sebastiano Rossi close to looks to be. So Christian should, of course, come ahead way in front of Sven and Jasper. Even though they're still already onto changing tires. We have another pit stop and it's Colin Blankenburg in the pits. Right in front of the media people. That's very important. Always park in front of the media people so they can take fancy photos of your car. Christian Goethe already passed the two of them. Ivan Lukic still has to do his pit stop, if I'm not mistaken. And Jasper's already going. Sven is still in the pit, so Sven is probably repairing aero damage as well. That means, as of now, Marvin Mackenberg is leading the race as well. Colin Blankenburg also still stationary. Ivan Lukic came to the pit in that lap. And even though there is, it says 120, but it's still 1 hour, 1 minute 20. But now, down the inside, having a look. I'm not sure if there was contact. But can't quite make it. Nearly losing the rear end, which is very easy to do there because it's the same as in a Rouge or Vadillon, for example. Where you lose the rear end because the track falls away from you. The same still because you have so much grip if you are on the incline. But after that... Oh, and Marcus Chandron, big impact there. Rearwards impact at turn 8. There's so much traffic right now. Just has lost control. It says Rocks to be 100% damage. No, it says Rossi's 100% damage. He lost a lot of time, certainly. And he lost the front of his car. It looks a bit odd. So, pit drop entry is a bit interesting, not gonna lie. Let's just wait a few more laps and wait for everything to settle because there's still so much happening. Ricardo Rebello's in the pits as well. Sebastiano Rossi, of course, we've just seen him enter. That is not for position. Timo Reiter is a lap down. Behind them, it's for position though. The Rover Mercedes versus the Haribo Mercedes. Both with damage, but well. Mark Chadron is out driving again. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the ones who still have to make a pit stop are Marvin Mattenberg, of course. Erik Kartoffel. Oh, he was going very wide there, that lost him quite some time. RoxDB should still need a pit stop. And I think the rest was in the pits already. So I think we should wait for them to make a pit stop, because currently people are all over the place. I don't think after that incident that Mark Sheldon will be ahead of Jiri Kartoffel, to be honest. Oh, and following close to Gaspar Miss again. But it will be interesting between Marvin Mattenberg and Christian Goethe. Currently, Christian Goethe has clocked in a 25.6, 25.8. Marvin is lapping 26.7. That's a big difference. Obviously, Marvin might gain a bit on fuel. Here, Kartoffel now in the pits. Could be a close one for Riccardo Rebello. Really now changing tires. That should be 30 seconds. That will be tight between the two of them. I think Jasper might go by. So, or should go by. Here he's now driving. That will be close between Jasper and him, actually. There's Jiri Kartoffel. You couldn't see him because he was behind the wall. There he is. So he will come out right between the two of them. But all of that chaos... Now let's just... I don't know if we should wait for... I think the B will fall behind a bit more. So we'll shuffle up things yet again. But now Lucas following on the inside of Gaspar Miss to Mercedes, now having a look down the outside, which is very viable into turn 1. Trying to have the better line. Gaspar shuts the door and now again having a look down the outside. Oh, and somebody, Dave Siska, not the best. Turn 9. Oh, and clipping the grass. Lucas following, that spins him around, and Timo having to take evasive action. Very well done by him there. Just clipped the grass on the outside, was too aggressive, too eager. Not sure why this is on all the time, but... That's how fast things can go. But of all the things that have happened, I mean, it's still crazy. I think we should go back to normal relatives, because it's just easier to trace now, as all the pit stops are through. And into the pits goes RoxDB. Now one pit stop probably cost around a minute. he is now up on jacks. He's also, I think it's Casper Miss in the pits, so he also wasn't in the pits. So all of that fighting actually wasn't for position. Or could that be enough for Sven to go by as well on Rokus? That will now be very interesting. Rokus is driving, but he has a long way until the acceleration line, and Sven also goes by. So Sven now up into 8th, which is the last VIP winning position, except for random draws. Oh, and also like actually fighting with Gaspar Miss here. Now down the outside, the Mustang. Oh, and forced a bit onto the grass there, but nothing too bad. It's a Mustang in 13th position in a Mustang. Just saying. And he's not giving up on that yet. Down the outside with the power of the Mustang. But no chance in the corners for that car. Oh, and we have... Oh, and Timo Walter having a disconnect. That's very unfortunate. He was still on good pace. Yeah, there he goes. That must be one of the most frustrating ways to end a race, because you can't do anything about it. It's not in your control. But when will Marvin Martenberg take a pit stop? That will be very interesting. Oh, and Jiri Kratov is stationary. Oh, turn 1. Oh, and all people having to take evaluation. Nothing Jiri done wrong there, just... And now we will have yellow flags all the time. It will be even harder to track anything. Lucas following lost control. Oh, and Lucas following also with the DNF. It's another 2 DNFs. That's very unfortunate. Also didn't have the best of races, but just a bit unlucky, but still fought his way through to good position. That now means that Thierry Kratoffer is behind Markus Shadonex, but he has a few lap cars in between. And now it's just... Oh, and Dave Siska out in turn 1. Can see by the skid marks that he just lost the rear end turning in. Getting out of the way for Christian here. I think as of now, Team Writer now also counted as a DNF in my dashboard. So that makes things a bit easier again. That's Jasper right behind Marvin, not in terms of... Oh, and actually it seems like Lucas also has a disconnect. So they both had disconnects. Shouldn't have been server related, because there was no lag spike or anything. Oh, and now pulling into the pits. So Colin will go past by pretty much guaranteed. But will Christian Götte go by? That will be interesting. Christian Götte now at Pilgrim's Weiß. And Marvin only changing rear tires. Now that will be very interesting. Colin Blankenburg of course going by. But that means Christian Grötte is coming out quite a long way behind Marvin Mattenberg. He's still stationary. It takes around 16 seconds to change tires. Maybe not that long. He's now driving again. Doesn't have too long of a distance. He won't be that far behind actually. It's a bit of a misjudgment, but that's interesting. Only changing rear tires is around 3.5 seconds. Oh, we have problems behind Matos Friedrich. Just people going into the yellow sector. But that's very interesting. That's what I said with different strategies. But now we can break down the orders. Everyone has done their scheduled pit stop. More or less scheduled in some cases. First up, I need to do something. So, leading obviously with a big margin, Colin Blankenburg. And, yeah, not much to say about it. It was a bit lucky. We have another yellow. This time, oh, it was Sven. That's interesting. Maybe it wasn't just a disconnect or a race from crashing. Oh, and another spin. What's up with Sven? The bee just going by. Oh, that's very interesting. So something has to be wrong, I guess. Maybe just overcooked the tires. Sebastian was now behind Friedrich for 13th position. But yeah, I wanted to go through the order, actually. So currently leading Colin Blankenburg 27 seconds. It's still way too early to call anything because we've seen throughout the race there's so much that can happen that can be outside of your control. And was he past Friedrich here? But yeah, he's currently in this pretty much safe space. Then we have Marvin Mattenberg, who's being chased down by Christian Grötte. Oh, and we have the next thing that happened. Rokus TB off in turn 1. Sven Mattenberg is shown as 100% damage, which is also quite unusual. And there's a lot of damage to the front of Rokus TB. Just as I said, there can be so much that happens. But there you can see how hard these cars are actually to drive, especially if you have a bit of damage. All of those drivers who did mistakes this race are usually not people who you know for making mistakes. Jiri Kartoffel as well. Front of Hawthorns. That's also damage to the front of that car. Probably also with concentration levels falling and stuff. But yeah, crazy stuff that's happening. Oh. Do you need to realign something? Maybe we can now go through the order. Sven Mattenberg now is close to Oxibi with that damage on the front. So Colin Blankenburg leading in front of Marvin Mattenberg and Christian Grötte, who is hunting him down. Marvin Mattenberg on fresher rear tires. Didn't change fronts though. And then we have Jasper van der Vaart. He lost out of the last position, was I think 8th or 9th at the end of the first lap. and now is back up to 4th. I think that would be a very good result if it would stay like that for him. Can't complain about 4th, especially in that car. Then we have Riccardo Rebello, who also moved up a long way. He started 10th, is now 5th. And Marcus Chadron, he had such a good opening phase, was 4th, then had an incident and lost out, and all that, was down to 10th, and is now also back up to 6th. Jiri Kratochvil went down the grid, then up the grid, and now is where he started. Looks to be also the same as Jiri Kratochvil, and Sven Mackenberg, after holding on to the lead for so long, being mistake-free, just being caught out by that incident with Meisman, who also couldn't do anything about it. That's Friedrich. Yeah, Friedrich straight on in Hawthorns. Being 9th all out of a sudden. So it's so much that happened. Even Lukic into 10th from 16th. Gaspar Miss staying where he was, even though he fell down the order, so he just fought back basically so far. And Marcel Löcken also had its moments, let's say, but so far pretty much free of major mistakes compared to other stuff that happened in this race, and silently moving up into 12th. Sebastiano Rossi also was up front, then one mistake, another mistake, and just stuff happening, and down into 13th. Josh Friedrich just having a silent race, more or less, in 14th. And Siska and Reiter just, Siska not having the greatest time. The best flow, let's say. But still 15th and still driving. That's all that matters. And he's shown at Silverstone that he is a very capable driver. So, and Friedrich now, as we talk, on the Grand Prix, beginning of Grand Prix circuit. Something? No, it was just people entering the yellow zone. Oh, and Marcel Löcken also spinning in turn 1. Commentator's curse. That's on me. But I mean, Reiter and Wallowing just unlucky with the game or internet connection being disconnected. That's nothing they can do. It's just unfortunate. Meisman being super unlucky on that curb. Where Löcken just drifted across. And Nedelko and Alexander also just unlucky crashes. So it's not like anyone could really has crossed the line or anything, just anything that happens. Being at the wrong place at the wrong time and stuff. So currently closest fight is between Roxy and Sven Mackenberg for the last VIP paying position. Don't pay points here, we pay VIP. I think it was a good change to single events instead of leagues. But as all of this happens, I will need a 1 minute break and be right back with you. And as I'm back, still in the same order, I think that's Gazprom in front of them. Red Mirrors should be Gazprom. No, wait. It's called Langbo. Did he pass them? What did I miss? I actually missed quite a lot, actually. I think. So that now means that Colin has put a lap on Ollie. Yeah, whatever. If you want to join KCG for the next event, scan that QR code that you are seeing in the bottom right corner. I will still leave it there for a bit. Oh, and Marco Chadron closing in on Ricardo Rebello as well. Quite some steps, as it seems, so Ricardo Rebello must have had some issue out of turn 9. Van Umberg lost out quite some time to Rogue CB and is continuing to lose time. Maybe that's also a bit because of, like, if you have bad exit, of course you lose more time. Those two actually, I don't think they have fought before. I mean, obviously they were very close to each other, but I don't think they had a fight. You can see that the camera is just getting bigger and bigger on the straight line. Braking a bit later, understeering into turn 1. Just lost a bit of time, not a big issue. Meanwhile, behind them, it's Kaspar Miss closing in on Ivan Lukic. Sorry. Owen Marcel spun round at turn 9. Nice 360 though. Rossi going by, but yeah. So currently there are two closer fights. One between Marc Chardon and Rebello, which we see right here. And then right behind, in terms of track, is Kaspar Miss and Ivan Lukic, even though they are one lap behind. Ivan going a bit wide there. The power of the GTR should make up for that. GTR not having a big BOP. 9810, it's okay-ish for those cars. Obviously the biggest BOP is going to Bentley, Continental, Chevy Camaro, Corvette as well actually, 650S and SLS AMG. So those have quite the hefty buffs. Nerfs, not buffs. Those would be a bit why. But mainly because of especially the Bentley and 650S, but I think also the Camaro got some updates other cars didn't. Meanwhile, cars like the R8 LMS, for example, P45, but also GTR and so on, they didn't really get any updates early because they were considered old or had successors. In terms of, for example, the R8 obviously had a successor for GT, Mustang GT was not used anymore. For longest, I think it only has 1 year of competition within the lifespan of racing. So all of these are obviously factored in. And then they weren't changed. And now Gasper missed down the inside of the GTR maybe. Braking late. Which you can do in that car, even with the lots of kilograms. And nice move there down the inside, and immediately the flash was put on by Ivan Dukic. But I'm sure there was no contact as it seems in my dashboard. And Sven Mockenberg made up for, I think, the mistake he did. It's now a few tenths behind Roxy again. And we still have half an hour to go. Surprisingly, Christian can't go the pace of Marvin Mockenberg. It's 5.6 seconds back. Sometimes gaining, sometimes losing. But overall, it just seems like the Alpina with lower fuel and so on. He obviously gained in the pit stop because he changed, I think, 16 seconds. But after the pit stop, Christian was 3.5 seconds behind Marvin. So, but obviously Christian was in the pits way earlier, so that sustained damage, which kind of forced him to. Still a bit surprised about that. Was a better apex from Marco compared to Ricardo. However, both cars having very different strength. The Camaro very strong in a straight line, even with the BOP as said previously. Corvette's still very strong, even with that much ballast in the corners. Oh, and Siska having an issue there. I'm not sure why Friedrich having a DQ. Why does Friedrich have a DQ? What happened there? Oh, and Sand down the inside of Hooks to be. Very close between the two of them. They've raced each other a number of times already. Keeping him pinned to the inside, having a better exit, and that's Sven Mockenberg into P8. Very nice move there. But I presume that Friedrich ignoring a drive-through penalty. Can't really put my finger on what happened. Or maybe he had a slowdown, didn't serve it. I can't really tell, to be honest. just a bit weird, as this whole race is so far. Aber Sven Martin right now driving clear of Rocks B. Why is Colin doing the Lulu? He's texting while driving. And I only do. Yeah, but we don't have any incident points enabled or anything like that, so that can't be the case why Friedrich is disqualified. I can only imagine either it says that he collected a drive-through because ignoring give back time or whatever. Or maybe he tried to avoid Siska because he wasn't wrong about that really. Because there is an area which immediately DQs you for. You can be immediately DQ'd for 2 reasons, and that is excessive cutting. I think that has a separate thing that shows. But you can also be instantly disqualified for exceeding pit speed excessively. So being in the pits, I think around about 60 or 80 kph above speed limit. And maybe he hit an area, and that is... Who is that? Okay. Now who was that who pulled into pit? It was Marcel Löckner, actually. Oh, and that's a big hit for Jiri Kartochvel, and that was super close for Sven again. If he was hit by Jiri, he would be, I think, a bit upset about it, and that would be very much understandable. But not sure what happened. It seems like he just clipped the grass and the car went round. It's very... so much happening. But that's what I said before. And Marvin is actually closing in on Colin, it seems like. No, not quite. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think at this point Colin is also just managing, basically. He's very clear for a long time. And as you've seen with many other drivers, if you just push too much and go over the line, it could be very much race done. There's so many slowdowns. Marcus Chardon, he can go the pace of Riccardo Rebello, but he just can't go past or get close enough to launch an attack. Marcel is still in the pits, and we can't watch because this car doesn't have onboards and there's a massive pillar. the way. Christian Virgin now 7.6 seconds behind. Can't really pinpoint why. Probably, I just can't imagine the Alpina being that good on only changing rears. That's crazy, but fair point. It isn't that good in pace on itself. So the overall pace of the car just wasn't completely there. But with the strategy, this could be dangerously good. And Rocks to be. Oh, nice. Car still running. Lost control and was on a collision, so probably on its own. Marco should run now. Closer than ever. And he seems to have the grip to go with the Corvette. Just follow what Ricardo does. Maybe with a good exit and that excessive power this car has. And it's not quite long enough. I think on Pilgrim's Rise it's easier for him. Just needs to stay close enough. Now he's pretty close for slipstream, but it's not enough. As soon as the slipstream really kicks in, it just doesn't enough straight left. It's incredibly hard for the Camaro to overtake here. I reckon it's very, very good on defense because he can just outrun anybody. And now Ricardo with a bit of a mistake there. But it's hard on offense because you need to get that exit in. On defense you can just block the car behind to have a good exit. But here you can. You can see he's forcing Ricardo to take weird lines even though just behind him. Just putting him under pressure, but Ricardo's holding on to it. There's Marcelacken letting them through. But so far we've only seen Marco being defensive. Now we can finally see him offensive. Or in the offensive. He's not offensive to anyone, of course. He's a very nice guy. But you can see now, Ricardo braked later to avoid being dived by Max Chadron. But just offset him for the next few corners. This time I had a way better one through turn 7. That was a bit wide now from Max Chadron. Just not close enough to do anything into turn 1 now. Christian meanwhile 8 seconds back. But you can also see hear how different the two V8s are in those cars. I mean, they're not that different, they're still two Chevy blocks. But still, the Corvette is a bit more higher revving. I think it's an LS7. Camera is more rumbling. It's actually very interesting that Chevrolet had two GT3s. But also very nice, to be honest. I like that. Oh, and there's Marcel in the wall there. It's still driving, so quite good. Oh, Christian got a bit of a drift there, out of 7. So we are going down a bit, I guess. But currently also a bit of a starting a lonely race, but I mean that was a strong recovery, I think. I think I had one mistake where he lost the car, if I'm not mistaken. But other than that. Sven also pretty much has settled into 7th for now. 14 minutes. Still quite some time to go. But 16 seconds is quite a far way back from Marco and Roberto. Even though in terms of lap times he's lapping 1/10 quicker, that won't be quite enough. And Erik Kartoffel, after Rooks the B spin back into 8th. This could still change between the two of them, 9 seconds. Depends on the extent of the damage on both of their cars. And Max Sheridan's super close again, but just not close enough to say so. Gazprom also made his way back up into the top 10. Fortunately, won't go much further, probably, but still. I mean, at least I know that those cars, even if you're just driving on your own, they are still a lot of fun. Because they're not as sterile and a real challenge. You can see how different the lines are. They should still be within track limits, actually. I will just deactivate. Oh, and onto the grass. Was lucky to not spin out. Was quick enough to react, to not get on throttle, but to stick on the brakes. There's just so much. Let's just leave it out for now. There's no point. Oh, and we have Master Logan was in the collision. Oh, and after such a long run, without issues, entering the GP circuit. At least did a nice Scandi flick, so. And it seems like there's not too much damage on his car. I would love to be on board with it. Oh, with that, but. Also loving how it just scrapes on the tarmac every time he turns. Just shows how much of a brick this chassis is. But there's not too much torsion in it though. Just some static use. I think that is Esper miss in front of Colin, isn't it? Yes. It's a bit stupid in this UI because I can't go back to normal TV cam if I use heli, static or action. Oh, and we have Davis got lost control. They happen. Jasper going around the outside. Bit wide there from Jiri Kartoffel. But even Lukic also on a good one. He was a bit unlucky in the meantime sometimes, but other than that, I mean, you can just look at this car and judge that it was a pretty good race, I'd say. But we are less than 10 minutes away from finishing this race. Oh, and we have another incident. And it's again Master Logan in Druids. And again, super close Mark Sheldon, but it's the same as in the tries he had before. It's just no way past the Corvette under braking. Oh, and now sliding off into the distance. But it's nice to see that the R8 actually can perform decently with the BOP. Of course, the BOP is not perfect, and I'm not trying to sit here 30 minutes talking about how good the BOP is and all. It's not perfect. It's simple as that. It's not perfect, but I think it's decent enough to have great racing and to see so many different cars. I mean, the top 8 are all different cars. of course, that's also how the race played out and a lot of outside factors. But still, I think the mix of cars is very good. If you want to really look for a car that's better than everything else, you will find one. Probably the Mercedes. Maybe. I'm not even too sure, but I think the Bentley could still be very good. I think people are just a bit sick of using it, to be honest. But after all, you have people just taking their favorite car, and it shows that you can have a good time in that car. That you are not like hopelessly driving. Okay, in the Mustang you are, but that's because of the Mustang. You can't do anything against it. But it's just cool to see. It's a bit what I was missing also in other races, I think. That there wasn't as clear of a balanced front. But I mean, the environment is also totally different, of course, in, for example, ranked championship or ranked events in that regard. Because in KCG it's not about being just being the best and winning every race and such. It's about having fun with people, having a good race. And then of course you tend to take just take cars you want to drive instead of what you kind of have to drive. I think that's what most leagues profit from, just that you have the feel of freedom. I was Gaspar trying to, I don't know if he wanted to heat up the tires or greet the stream. But now it will be interesting with Colin in the mix. Of course, Colin will get blue flags and he will get past the two of them. But maybe Marcus Chardon, if he can get a bit closer to Riccardo Gabello before Colin gets into the very close range where you need to let him by, maybe he can go past Riccardo with the help of Colin, basically, because Riccardo might give way to Colin. And Riccardo won't be stupid in that regard. Like, Riccardo is a very nice driver, a very good driver, but also a very intelligent driver. He definitely knows what he's doing. And he will not just let him by on a straight where you can just fly by when you're right behind somebody. And Mastodon again. Oh, that will be interesting now. Yeah, he's just parking there, very good. And he is super close now. He has a look down the inside, causing Riccardo to... That's what I said, he's very fair, he leaves a lot of space even if you dive it down. But if Marco just keeps it close, in close proximity, you can maybe still make use of him being offline for a short moment or whatsoever to breeze past Riccardo Rubello. It's also a tricky situation for all three of them, because obviously Colin doesn't need to get bypassed. He's 31 seconds clear. Oh, but now very good exit from Marcus Chardon. He has the inside line. He can defend around the outside. Dives it down the inside. Can he keep it stopped on the apex? Yeah, he parks it on the apex. Great move there by Marcus Chardon, but now Riccardo Rubello down the inside. Now leaves some space on the inside. Oh, and there was the touch between the two of them. Not sure what happened there. Might be a racing incident. But that's super unlucky for Rubello. I mean, the camera is also... it's just a tank in that regard, but... It looked to me like Rubello understeered into Chardon because there was space on the inside. Didn't seem like Marcus shut the door, but also didn't seem like Riccardo went for space. He didn't that wasn't there. Just seemed like that earlier incident with Vox2B and Alfonso Alexandre. But as always, we will take a look at that after the race. That means now Sven Magberg into 6th and only 3.8 seconds behind Mark Sharon. That won't be quite enough, even though he's much faster at the moment than Mark Sharon. But still, won't be quite enough. And Colin Blankenburg now on his last lap. 1 minute 17 is not enough to start another lap. So this one will be the last one. Drifting it around Druids, just for fun, I guess. Oh, and is Max Sharon slow, or did he want to let Gaspar pass? I think he was just letting him pass. Even though it may look like it, unfortunately it won't be a Rover 1-2 because Gaspar Miss is a bit further down the order. However, it should be the last time or the last lap. Dave Siska, meanwhile, not having the best end. But now time's up. Colin Blankenburg is coming around the final corner. And he is crossing the line side by side with Gaspar Mills for at least a nice finish. And it's Colin Blankenburg winning the GT Legacy event at Brands Hatch. Congratulations to him, very well deserved. It was such a tense opening phase. And then just that one incident gave him basically free way. But Marvin Mattenberg also what a drive to come in second. Congratulations to him. And now we just wait for Christian Grete to round out the podium. In third, in the BMW Z4. Congratulations to Christian Grete. And there's Marcel Löcken having a interesting way to finish a race. And then Jasper van der Vaart coming home, bringing it home P4, fell down the order at start, fought his way back up. Use the mistakes of the others to bring that Audi into a position which I, to be honest, didn't think it would be able to do, and that's why, for me, Jasper, driver of the day. Colin did a fantastic drive, same was wrong. Sven also had a fantastic race, he couldn't do anything about that collision. Same goes for Christian, exactly the same, but Jasper fought back through the pack, really had to fight for his positions. And that's why I'd say that goes to him. So congratulations Colin Mang for race winner and fastest lap. And yeah, then Marvin Mattenberg P2, Christian Grete P3, Jesper van der Vaart P4, Marcus Chadron bringing it home in 5th with a very good result for the Camaro. If it wasn't for that mistake, maybe 4th, who knows. Sven Mattenberg 6th, good recovery for him. Carlo Vello, Jürgen Kartoffel, the last two VIP giving positions. Then outside of them, Roxaby, Gaspar Miss, Ivan Lukic, Sebastiano Rossi, Dave Siska, Marcel Löcken. And unfortunately, who couldn't finish was Timo Reiter, Lukas Following, Birger Meismann, Luca Nedelko, Alfonso Alexandre, and Matos Friedrich. Yeah, what an event it has been. That was crazy, let's say. So much happening, especially in the first 32 minutes. There was just so many things that just so much that happened that you couldn't have anticipated before the race. That was, I don't know how to put it in. I'm super happy with that race. It was had I don't really know what to say. It was just so much happening. Incidents, but also great fights, and in general just great racing overall. Of course, stuff can always improve, but I don't think there's that much in that regard that should or can improve. I will just quickly upload the things to race results or sim results. And after that, I want to talk about the future of KCG, because I have a few things in my head. Save it permanently, and there we have them. There we go. So, yeah, of course, congratulations also to everyone who finished, to everyone who attended the race. Thanks a lot, and also for the support, especially with the BOP, with all that help. Couldn't have done it without, well, most of you. But what I thought about the last days, and especially now after that race, because I think that was a fantastic race to have a lot of, yeah, good racing with very cool cars, and yeah, in general a lot of enjoyment out of that event. What I thought about, I don't have anything planned as next event, to say it like that, but what I thought, why don't we do this more often, like those cars? And what I had, what my idea would have been, is to have one of the GT Legacy events at a different track every time, because we only need to adjust the BOP a bit per track and so on. I think that is manageable, and then always have something special. So I try to have it every 1.5 months, maybe 2 months, as the rhythm is currently, as fast as is possible for me at least. And then we have one, let's say, normal event, and then we have a GT Legacy event. And with that GT Legacy event, we can go to so many tracks, so many great tracks. I probably won't show. I can already tell. We probably won't show Nordschleife. Nordschleife is great and stuff. Maybe if it's very much wished for, maybe we will. But I think, especially at those shorter tracks, is very, very fun. And what I also thought about, because we have more cars that you can't use in online anymore, which are still very popular, would to divide GT Legacy into 2 classes which can still race each other in some form. I'm still thinking about if it makes sense or not. My idea would be to split the grid into 2 classes, let's say. One of the really old cars, so R8, P45, Mustang, Nissan, and so on. And have the other one, the more modern cars, 650S, Bentley. But then also the newer AMG GT3, so the 2016 model, the R8 LMS, and the 2019 Porsche. So that we have all the cars that you can't race in normal competition anymore. That would be my idea. I need to get some feedback on that before, because obviously you have to then see that obviously you have less cars to compete with each other. But if we would allow the 2019 Porsche into the current grid as it stands now, you obviously face the problem that it's completely overpowered and needs something like 80 kilograms to be kind of balanced, which makes the car no fun, I guess. But that would be an idea, to have 2 classes in that regard. Maybe name them in a cool way and then we go somewhere. But other than that, I think it was a very, very nice race, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It will take some time until I will announce the next thing, because I don't have anything prepared in that regard, because I didn't have the time to do anything, basically. But you will be notified on Discord when something is up. But until then, I wish you a great evening, a great night, and good night. Enjoy.